Hey, I'm Tobias Wilhelm, and in this video I'll talk about picking a bank for your business. Getting more bang for the buck? I had a friend of mine call me the other day, and he is in the process of opening a new business, and he was asking me some questions about how to pick a bank, whether to pick a local bank, national bank, whatever, something in between. And I thought it made a good video, so here we are. Especially nowadays, there's not a whole lot of difference anymore between a national bank and a small local bank because the regulations are basically all the same. See, years ago when I started in Germany, you could walk into a local bank and basically get a $50,000 line of credit without much of anything. Which, by the way, is a lot of responsibility for 18-year-old Tobias. Did you know you can rent a penguin? All right, so how do we pick a bank? Number one, you want to walk in with a list of the things you need from the bank in order to succeed. I need a loan. I want to buy a building. I want to buy equipment. I will make daily deposits. I need a line of credit. And number two, you want to walk in with a list of all the questions you have for your bank. Do you have any experience with online businesses? Do you have your own payment processor? Do you have any experience with international transactions? Do you know what Apple Pay is? How do you handle out-of-state checks? Do you work with SBA and government programs? Do you know what Bitcoin is? Number three, you want to ask about perks and you want to negotiate. Do I get cash back? Do I get points on debit card purchases? Actually, points on debit card purchases are really cool because if you spend a bunch of money, you can trade them in for a new iPad. Can we negotiate fees? Interest is always negotiable. How about a free safe deposit box? And once you asked a bunch of questions, you can actually go to one of your top running banks and negotiate with them and tell them what the other bank is doing for you. And guess what? They might actually come down a little bit. Now, when it comes right down to it, small banks are usually about relationships. Like your relationship banker or a local banker, they usually have a little bit more leeway in a smaller bank than they have in a bigger bank. I had a client a couple of years ago that had a downtown business that we were trying to open. And of course, the local bank knows a whole lot better what's actually going on in the local downtown versus the national bank that just looks at the numbers. A lot of times with smaller banks, you can call your personal banker and say, hey, I wrote a check and I really need it to go through, and they can actually make that happen for you. With the bigger banks, that is an automated process and it'll either bounce or not, and you'll probably never know why. One way or the other, it'll probably still cost you a bunch of money. The nice thing about bigger banks is they can afford to provide great customer service. Like phone support 24/7 is much nicer than 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. For example, years ago, I had a bank that would turn off my credit card every time I would travel to Texas, thinking it was some kind of fraudulent charge. And needless to say, every time I had to call and get my credit card unlocked whenever I was trying to use it. Have you ever stood at a gas station at midnight trying to get your card unlocked? It sucks. At least somebody answered the phone, right? Then, of course, it needs to be convenient to do business with a bank. Do you have a website? What bank doesn't have a website? Do you have an app? Can I make deposits through my app? Since you'll definitely, hopefully, make a bunch of deposits. Of course, if you're going with a bigger bank, a local branch is always nice. That way you can run in case you need checks or you need some that you need to pick up in person. It's totally doable. If you get some of those huge checks, you want to definitely deposit them in person, not send them in the mail. Who uses checks anymore? Matter of fact, I just converted my hairdresser from taking checks to taking online payments. Love you, Sharon. Now, of course, if you're trying to build credit, bigger banks sometimes have the better products, or more products, that is. Credit cards with points, signature loans, prepaid credit cards, lines of credit. I've also noticed that bigger banks usually are a little more consistent when it comes down to reporting to your credit agencies, and that's ultimately what makes your credit work. All right, let's wrap it up. Bigger banks, nicer toys, but they're also big, and you're just a number. Smaller banks, better relationship locally, but they're small banks. So ultimately, it's probably you want a bank that's somewhere in the middle, that's big enough to have the nice toys and be up to speed on technology, and small enough to actually be local and care. And here's a life pro tip. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you have all your loans with the same bank, they kind of have you over a barrel. Remember that old commercial, when banks compete, you win? All right, I hope this helps when picking a local bank. I am Tobias Wilhelm. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, please subscribe below. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think or what you would like to see a video on, and I will talk to you next time.